Well, good morning. My name's Bryan, and this is my wife, Carmenza, and we're pleased to be able to give service together. Actually, the first time this year. So I'm going to do another reading, and this one's from Rays of the One Light. These are weekly commentaries on the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita by Swami Kriya-yoga. This is titled Self-Effort Too is Needed. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. These past weeks, we've discussed the need for balancing self-effort with receptivity to divine grace. Both are important in the spiritual life. Passive dependence on grace hasn't the magnetism to attract grace. Boastful self-confidence, however, which closes itself off from the higher divine power, is shallow, brittle, and given life's many uncertainties, susceptible to ultimate failure. There is a story in the Bible that illustrates the need to put forth personal effort so as to draw magnetically on the divine power. The story occurs in the Gospel of St. Luke, chapter 8. But as he went, the crowds nearly suffocated him. Among them was a woman who had had a hemorrhage for 12 years and who had derived no benefit from anybody's treatments. She came up behind Jesus and touched the edge of his cloak. As a result, her hemorrhage stopped immediately. "Who was it that touched me?" Jesus asked. When everybody denied it, Peter remonstrated, "Master, the crowds are all around, pressing you on every side." But Jesus said, "Somebody touched me. I felt power going out from me." When the woman realized that she had not escaped notice, she came forward trembling and fell at his feet and admitted before everyone why she had touched him, adding that she had been instantaneously cured. "Daughter," Jesus said, "it is by your faith that you have been healed. Go in peace." Self-confidence and self-effort are necessary, as the ignition of a car is necessary to the engine. Of what use the ignition, however, if the engine itself will not work? Wise is he who recognizes the real power in the universe and guides his life by that supreme power. As it says in the Bhagavad Gita, the 9th chapter, "To those who meditate on me as their very own, ever united to me by incessant worship, I make good their deficiencies and render permanent their gains." Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om. This is such a lovely story in the Bible, and it has much to teach us about healing at all levels, not just physical healing like in this story. Master tells us that healing, divine healing, is a phenomenon of two different factors. One is the life force, or the energy, or sometimes called the virtue in these readings, that the healer has. That cosmic energy that is channeled from God, from the universe, and into the body of the healer. And that's sometimes referred to or thought of metaphorically as a seed. And then the other aspect for healing to occur has to be a soil that seed can grow in. If a seed falls on a stone, it doesn't grow. And so that soil is created by the faith of the person who is to be healed. Not belief, but actually faith. And the story is so lovely because Jesus is acknowledging that this woman's faith is what actually healed her, that magnetized that cosmic energy from Jesus, through Jesus, and into her body. And it instantaneously healed her. Now, Master says that instantaneous healing occurs when the healer and the person to be healed are perfectly tuned to each other. And there are other instances where healing has a time factor, that it can take many months or many years or many hours to occur. And that's when either the life force conveyance of the healer or the faith of the person to be healed is not quite as strong or not quite as attuned. And it's interesting that Jesus says to her, he doesn't say to her, because you have faith, you were healed. He's saying, in other words, it's not like an exchange. I had faith in you for so long, therefore you healed me. It's actually more direct and more immediate. He's saying, by your faith, you have been healed. So that faith that we create, of course, takes effort. And this is part of the topic of today is self-effort is needed. And it's not just effort. I think we in this country are sort of known in America for putting out effort. And that's part of what Yogananda appreciated about America was the sort of can-do attitude and the effort that people will put out, at least on the material level, to be able to accomplish things. We talk sometimes about giving 100% effort or even 110% effort, which is not quite statistically kosher, but but we do talk, and even in our teachings from Swami Kriya-yoga, we talk about giving 100% effort in whatever it is we do and focus on whatever it is we do. And I think with the possible exception of, if you're going to donate blood, you don't want to give 100%. But other than that, we are talking about putting out effort and also putting out effort of the right type. So if you're like me, you pay attention to the sport of swimming once every 4 years for about 2 weeks. And that's when the Summer Olympics occur. And unless you have a child that's in swim club, which means you spend all summer thinking about swimming, but most of us just think about it. And recently I read an interview with Katie Ledecky, who is a female American swimmer, and she's going to be swimming this week. The Olympics will start, the Summer Olympics. I think they start on Friday, and first swimming events are a week from today on Sunday. And Katie Ledecky spends several hours a day swimming. She averages 37 miles a week of swimming, which is just under 2,000 miles a year practicing swimming. And a lot of people ask her, well, that's a lot of time to be staring at this black line on the bottom of the pool while you're swimming. And she talks about it in a few different ways. She says, well, I can always pay attention to my form and my stroke, and I can always refine my stroke. And, it's not at all boring to me. It's my joy. She talked about the first time she won a race at the Olympic trials when she was 15 years old. And she said, when I touched the wall and I had won the race, I felt happier than anybody else who also touched the wall and won their races. And I knew that this was a source of joy for me. So she puts out a tremendous effort, but also a tremendous effort of the right type. She was 14 years old and winning a lot of swim competitions in back east somewhere. I forget where she grew up, Maryland perhaps. And she didn't even think about the Olympics as a goal. And 9 months later, she went to the Olympic trials and she won her race. She tends to be strongest at the 800-meter freestyle event. She's also done 400 and 200, but that's her sort of her specialty, is this distant swimming. And so she went to the Olympics at age 15 for the first time, 12 years ago. And before the 800-meter race, she was talking to her parents, and she said, even though your seats are really up high, she says, when I'm on the platform, you'll be able to move down so you can see me better and you'll be closer. She says this to her mom and dad, and her mom, who was a collegiate swimmer herself, her mom kind of winced because she felt, well, I think she felt that her 15-year-old daughter was perhaps overconfident. Less than an hour later, she got the gold medal, and indeed her parents did come down. So this is a attitude, this isn't what Swami talks about, boastful self-confidence. So effort and confidence, that isn't boastful self-confidence. Maybe it's a confidence arising from perhaps naivety about the competition. It doesn't matter. It's a confidence, and that's an internal confidence. So healing can occur on the physical level, like in this example. It can also occur on the psychological or mental level. We have a healing prayer ministry here in Sacramento, and we really had a phenomenal breakthrough that we became aware of just this week. A person that lived in our community, now lives in a memory care center, had been praying with the healing prayer ministry for years to be able to reestablish contact with her daughter. And it had been 12 years since she'd seen her daughter, and she had never seen her two grandchildren. I think they're 9 and 11. And the healing prayer ministry, our little ministry here in Sacramento, had been praying for this for many years. And this week we heard that her daughter came to visit her, and that she got to meet her grandchildren for the first time. And this is a healing that took a very long time. But because of the decline of her cognition, it was still a matter that her heart could be healed by this, by seeing her daughter for the first time in many years and meeting her grandchildren. Because the mind isn't actually that necessary for divine will healing to occur. In fact, a lot of times the mind is a barrier to developing that faith that is so needed. Doubt is probably the biggest thing that the mind comes up with, that, I can be healed or I should be healed. So Master and Swami talk about our role in developing that soil for the seed to heal us at any level, psychological, mental, spiritual level. And there's a couple of hints pretty strong hints about how not to pray or how not to approach this. And one of those is to not approach it as a beggar. And Swami talks about the example of if you have a wealthy man who is approached by a stranger on the street who's begging for something, they're going to get maybe $5, $10, $1, $20. They're going to get a small amount because begging has very little magnetism to it. But that same wealthy man's daughter would come to him and have need for some financial support. He would give it all. He would give everything he has for it. And this is what it is with God. God will give it all to us if we have faith, if we approach God with that attitude that, of course, I am your child. Of course, you want to give it to me. And even Jesus, in his time, did not heal everybody. Master says he didn't heal everybody that came to him, despite what you see in the shows and the movies. Not everybody that came to Jesus was healed by him, because not everybody had that faith and that ability that this woman in the story had. You know, there's approaching things as a beggar. You know, one of the things that Krishna says is that no spiritual effort is ever wasted. No spiritual effort is ever lost. And when we think about, which we often have to do because Swami paired this teaching about effort up with the reading that Carmenza did about renunciation. I'm always wondering about how these are paired and how they get together. But when your guide, Swami, Kriya-yoga, and your wife say, oh yeah, there's total connection there, then you have to think about it. And renunciation is not presented here as in any way suppressing something. The focus of it is entirely about giving the gift of yourself to God. Giving the gift of ourself to God. And that's what a child would do with their parent. They would assume they would give their whole self as a gift. So rather than thinking about, well, I shouldn't eat ice cream and I shouldn't eat chocolate and I shouldn't, it just gets superseded if you think about, I mean, we all like to give nice gifts. And we really like to give nice gifts if we have some nice wrapping paper and make it, you know, that's just an impulse for us, a natural impulse for us. If we think about keeping our body healthy for that reception of cosmic energy that we get through meditation and that we get through devotion and that we get through attunement, if we think about that in that way, then all the little pieces of don't eat ice cream, don't eat chocolate, all those pieces fall away as suppression, and you're keeping your eyes on the prize, so to speak. This last reading from the Bhagavad Gita of Krishna speaking is my second favorite saying from Krishna, and I just want to reread a bit of it with a couple of words thrown in that Swami put in his book, The Essence of the Bhagavad Gita. So Krishna says, those who meditate on me as their very own, and there it is, as your very own, your parent, you're a child. Those who meditate on me as their very own, their hearts ever united to me by incessant inward worship. I make good their deficiencies and make permanent their gains. Who among us would ever turn down our deficiencies being filled, being supplied, being made good? And who among us has ever not had the feeling that whatever gains you make are not necessarily permanent. That time when I thought I was going to be able to stand up for myself when somebody said something like that to me. Because you did it before, but then this time you failed. And it's kind of like it's kind of like football